Welcome to the Museum of Psychphonics, the sound of the soul. We aim to bring you into a place where normalcy is disregarded. This is a mechanical garden, a portal to the imagination. Everything that you've wondered about, sound, spiritual realm, all of those things. You may find answers here, or you may find more questions. The important thing is to come in. We first put the museum together in what had been the former storage space of a record shop, which was located right across the hall from our present location here in Fountain Square in downtown Indianapolis at the glorious Murphy building, which is a hub for the arts community in Indianapolis. Michael Kaufman came up with the idea of creating this tiny museum specifically to showcase our main object of interest, which is the baby mothership from the band Parliament Funkadelic. But he also wanted to create a place in Indianapolis that focused on some of the more esoteric aspects of our local history and also our connection with music and American culture in general.
Ever since probably late in high school, I've been obsessed with museums, in particular the German word Wunderkammer, Cabinet of Curiosities, Cabinet of Wonders. So through the years, I've always wanted to build my own. I was talking to a friend of mine here in Indianapolis, a gentleman named Tom Batista, who's a roadie, stagehand, stage manager for a lot of musicians, previously for David Bowie and for Parliament Funkadelic. And I learned that he had what is called the baby mothership in storage here in Indianapolis. And I knew quite a bit about the baby mothership, been a fan of Parliament Funkadelic for a long time.
I often refer to the baby mothership as our Mona Lisa. It is the main attraction, the one object that people line up outside the door just to see. It is a real stage prop that was commissioned by and used by the band Parliament Funkadelic. They did huge arena shows where they would travel around the country and perform to these large audiences. Thousands of people would pack the stadiums to see Parliament. Their stage show was so fantastic and so incredible. They created this very basic old-timey theater illusion where it's a study in perspective. So something that's small is perceived as far and distant. So they had this small version of the mothership that would be flown out on a wire above the people in the crowd with pyrotechnics shooting out of it, spotlights on it, the crowd is going wild. And it would sail over their heads and then disappear into this fog cloud above the stage. And gradually the lights would come up and the big version of the mothership would descend down and land on the stage.
The museum focuses on a lot of different narratives or different ideas that unify around this idea of music as a force. Psychphonics being psych of mind, phonics sound, and so those two, the sound of mind, this idea that sound informs your mind and that there's also maybe this deeper, more mysterious intelligence that is the unifying threads of the universe and of our existence is the idea that it's sound that's holding things together. So a lot of the objects have some reference to music. We have a Burger King ashtray where it was the Burger King where Elvis was spotted after his death in Kalamazoo, Michigan. There's little points of references to musicians and different musical history, both here and beyond. A lot of times when you go to museums, everything is labeled, everything is ordered a specific way. There's a taxonomy to the whole experience, and that taxonomy is fairly arbitrary. It's an assortment of how we've decided to classify and categorize things. And I think there's a danger in us accepting that always as the overriding logic or wisdom. So sometimes messing with that taxonomy, getting rid of certain labels or combining objects in a new way is an important exercise for us to think about the world in new ways. There's a didactic, which is a printed newspaper that's sort of, usually when you walk into a museum, you read the didactic first and it tells you what you're about to see. But we like the idea that you read the didactic after you've been to the museum so that you can draw your own conclusions.
The main fun part is watching people's reaction. We have children, we have older people, we get the full spectrum of citizens to come in here, and it never fails to put a smile on my face seeing how people react to it, especially when they're walking out and they're reading the didactic or they're talking to each other about their experience. It's always fun just to hear what one thing stood out in one person's mind versus what somebody else noticed.
If you have an open mind and an open heart and come in through this door, you'll find something that will inspire or entertain or maybe just amuse you. Mike Kaufman is extremely adept at making connections with people in other places, and he is especially good at bringing people to Indianapolis that help expand our sense of who we are as a community, who we are as individuals, and what is our place within the context of a smaller city in the Midwest that has so many facets, so many things that people don't readily understand. So many people who have dismissed the history of Indianapolis as a boring city. Well, it certainly is not boring, and it never was. And the Museum of Psychphonics is one of those ways that we can help illuminate people's understanding of Indianapolis and Indiana and the Midwest as a whole.